It was a rainy night in New Orleans, 2023, when the first reports of the staircase surfaced. People spoke in hushed tones of a spiral staircase that appeared out of nowhere, tucked into alleyways or abandoned buildings where no stairs should have existed. Among those curious souls was Elowen Harth, a 26-year-old freelance photographer with a taste for the mysterious and forbidden. Her friends had warned her not to go searching, but she couldn't resist. The lure of the unknown was too strong. Elowen first saw it in a narrow, mist-choked street near the French Quarter. The staircase twisted upward, its black iron rails glistening with rain, spiraling into darkness that seemed to suck in the light around it. The locals whispered stories of those who climbed the stairs and vanished, some emerging hours later with hollow eyes, as though decades had passed in mere minutes. But to Elowen, it felt like an invitation she couldn't refuse. As she stepped closer, the air grew heavy with a strange metallic scent, and a low hum reverberated from the staircase itself. She paused, noticing faint scratches on the steps, letters, names, dates, and desperate messages. One read, "Help! I am lost between floors. 2019. Another warned, "Do not climb, or you will never return. Valen." Her heartbeat quickened, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through her veins. Ignoring her instincts, Elowen began to climb. Each step creaked beneath her weight, yet the staircase seemed to stretch endlessly upward, the top never coming into view. With every rotation, the city sounds below faded. The rain, the distant chatter, and the lights of New Orleans disappeared. She felt a shiver crawl up her spine, as if unseen eyes were watching her from the shadows that clung to the stairs. Halfway up, she glimpsed another figure ahead. Someone unfamiliar, yet strangely familiar, as if plucked from a dream. The figure paused, head tilted unnaturally, and then vanished into the shadows of the spiral. A cold realization gripped Elowen. This was not just a staircase. It was a trap, a corridor that warped reality itself. Yet, curiosity chained her feet to the iron steps, and she climbed onward, unaware that with each turn, she was being pulled deeper into a nightmare that had trapped countless souls before her. Elowen's legs ached as she climbed higher, but the staircase seemed to stretch on endlessly. The city below had vanished completely. Even the sounds of rain were gone. It was as if she had been transported into another dimension. Every step echoed like a drumbeat in an empty hall, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by something unseen. Shadows flickered along the walls, moving with a life of their own, sometimes ahead of her, sometimes just out of reach. After what felt like hours, she reached a landing that shouldn't have existed. A small room opened from the spiral, its walls covered with dusty, scratched messages. Some were warnings, others were desperate pleas for help. One caught her eye. "If you read this, do not trust the floors above, 2021, Morrigan Vale." She shivered as the name Morrigan Vale lingered in her mind. It sounded familiar, yet she couldn't place it. Suddenly, the air grew cold, and a whispering voice echoed through the spiral, repeating her name, "Elowen! Elowen!" She spun around, but there was no one there. Panic set in, and yet her feet moved forward, almost as if the staircase was compelling her to climb. She reached another landing, this one decorated with a broken mirror. Her reflection looked wrong, older, hollow-eyed, and terrified, yet it mimicked every move she made. She stepped back, heart racing, and the mirror shattered with a deafening crack, sending shards tumbling down into the abyss below. As she climbed higher, the staircase seemed to change its shape, twisting in ways that defied physics. Steps appeared where none had been before, and familiar turns now led to entirely new corridors, some filled with faint candlelight, others plunged into total darkness. She began to feel disoriented, unsure if minutes or hours had passed. Every turn brought new fragments of voices, as if the walls themselves remembered the souls who had been trapped here. Then she saw them, figures in the shadows, human-like but distorted, moving silently between floors. Some reached out toward her, only to vanish when she looked directly at them. Elowen's mind struggled to comprehend what she was seeing. Could it be the previous victims of the staircase? Were they trapped between worlds, unable to move on? Fear gripped her chest, yet she was drawn upward, toward the unknown that promised either escape or eternal entrapment. At one particularly narrow landing, she noticed a journal wedged between the iron rails, damp and worn. Flipping through it, she saw entries dating back decades, each describing the same phenomenon. The endless spiral, the whispers, the shadows, and the terrifying loop that trapped people forever. One entry ended with a chilling warning: the staircase doesn't just take you, it changes you. Do not climb unless you wish to become a part of it forever. A sudden creak behind her made her whirl around. The staircase seemed to have shifted again. The top she had been aiming for was gone. The spiral stretched infinitely in both directions, above and below, and a low, growling presence emerged from the darkness, moving along the steps toward her. Elowen realized with a shiver that the staircase wasn't just a structure, it was alive, and it had chosen her. Elowen's pulse pounded in her ears as the staircase twisted in impossible angles. Every step she took seemed to echo into infinity, yet the sound was strangely hollow, as if swallowed by the dark itself. The air grew thick, heavy with a metallic tang, and she realized the whispers had grown louder, urgent, insistent, almost pleading for help. She paused, straining to hear the words, "Don't climb above." Suddenly, she saw movement. Shadowy forms slithered along the edges of the stairs, humanoid but grotesque, their faces blurred and ever-changing. They didn't have mouths, yet she could hear them screaming silently. One extended a hand, long and skeletal, reaching for her ankle. Elowen stumbled back, heart hammering, and the figure vanished as though it had never existed, leaving only the faint echo of its presence. Time became meaningless. Minutes, hours, or perhaps days, Elowen could not tell, passed as she climbed. She noticed the stairs looping back on themselves, recreating corridors she had already seen, but subtly different. The doors she had passed before were now open, revealing rooms filled with fragments of lives she didn't recognize. Toys, newspapers, photographs of strangers with eyes hollow like empty wells. She realized the staircase was feeding on reality, weaving fragments of other worlds into its endless spiral. At one landing, she found a small clock, its hands spinning wildly in opposite directions. She touched it, and the world shifted violently. The staircase stretched into a cityscape she recognized, New Orleans, but distorted, frozen in time, as if 2023 and 1987 had collided. She saw herself in the distance, climbing, and another Elowen, older and hollow-eyed, staring back. Panic surged through her. Was this her future? Or her past? Desperate, she pressed onward, hoping the top would appear, but the staircase twisted again, revealing a narrow bridge suspended over nothingness. Below, faint screams echoed, and the floor seemed to ripple like water. The shadow creatures emerged fully now, gliding along the steps with unnatural speed. Their eyes glowed faintly, black and endless, and they seemed to study her, judging whether she would survive or become one of them forever. In a moment of terror, Elowen stumbled into a small alcove filled with messages from victims. One note made her gasp. "If you are reading this, you are next. I am trapped, and so will you be. Kaylin, 1999, Chicago." The years and locations varied, but the pattern was clear. The staircase moved, existing in multiple cities, multiple times, and it never released its victims. Heart racing, Elowen realized she had no choice but to keep climbing, though the shadows whispered that she would never reach the top. Every step forward felt like a lifetime, every turn a descent into madness. The staircase was alive, sentient, and patient, and it had been watching her since she first set foot on the spiral. As she ascended, the shadows closed in, the walls whispered, and she understood the terrifying truth. The staircase didn't just trap bodies, it trapped souls. Elowen's breath came in ragged gasps as she climbed higher, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. The staircase seemed endless, yet she could feel a strange pull, urging her upward. as if it were guiding her to some final revelation. Shadows danced along the railings, whispering in voices that sounded like every victim who had ever climbed before her. She pressed forward, gripping the iron banister, knowing that stopping meant surrendering to the spiral forever. At the next landing, she entered a vast chamber bathed in dim, flickering light. The walls were covered with names scratched deep into the stone, victims spanning decades, cities, and even centuries. Among them, she saw a name she recognized. Valen, one of the first warnings she had read. Her heart raced as the whispers grew louder, forming words that seemed directed at her. "You cannot leave. You belong here." Suddenly, a shadow creature emerged fully before her, massive and terrifying, its form constantly shifting. Its eyes burned with an unnatural glow, and its voice resonated in her mind. "All who climb are part of the spiral. Time and place bend. Escape is impossible." Elowen realized the staircase was not just a structure. It was a living prison for souls, feeding on curiosity and fear. Desperate, she remembered the journal she had seen earlier and recited the warning aloud, hoping to disrupt whatever force held the staircase together. "The staircase changes you. Do not climb unless you wish to be part of it forever." The shadows recoiled slightly, and for a moment, she felt a flicker of hope, as if her voice had broken through the spiral's control. Then the stairs twisted violently, and she was flung into a corridor that mirrored her first steps, the very beginning of her climb. The city of New Orleans appeared below her once more, real and tangible. She stumbled down the final steps, collapsing onto the rain-soaked street. The staircase had vanished behind her, leaving only the wet cobblestones and the faint echo of whispers. Elowen sat in stunned silence, realizing she had escaped, but only barely. Her body ached, her mind reeled, and she knew that the spiral had marked her. The journal had warned that survivors carried pieces of the staircase within them, forever bound to its infinite loops. Shaking, she made a silent vow to warn others, to tell the story of the staircase that never ends. If you enjoyed this story and want more terrifying true tales, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a spine-chilling adventure. Share your experiences in the comments section. Have you ever felt drawn to something you shouldn't have? Or known someone who disappeared mysteriously? Share this story with friends who love horror and the unknown, because some legends are better told together, and some staircases are better left unexplored.